Well, coming up tonight, there's going to be a wonderful spring concert going on, and we have today Valerie Geller, who is this time around going to be performing in it. And we also have a Lee Crater, and you are play the cello. You've been on with us before. You're with the Village Symphony. Yes. So welcome, both of you here today. So Valerie, tell me about this concert. Are you conducting it and playing in it? Can you do both at once?
Yeah, I'm going to be an ambidextrous musician tonight. I'm going to be opening the concert with the Magic Flute Overture by Mozart, and I will be conducting from the podium for that work. And then immediately following the Magic Flute, we have a very magical flutist who's going to be joining us as soloist, Diane Allen Craig, who is just a magnificent artist. We are so lucky to have her with us, and she'll be performing the Vivaldi Piccolo Concerto, and it's an absolutely beautiful work. It's only about 15, 16 minutes long, but it was so funny. Last week during the rehearsal, when we were getting through the second movement, we all had to stop. I couldn't continue. It was just so beautiful. We just had to stop and take a pause and a deep breath and went, that was gorgeous. She has such a beautiful quality. It's a pipe-like quality that she creates from that piccolo. It's beautiful. And then immediately following, so we are playing this concert with no intermission.
Okay.
We will go into Mozart's Symphony number 29, which is actually very familiar, but you don't hear it performed very often. It's quite lovely. In fact, one of our cellists, Agnes Weitzner, who is sitting principal for this program, and she has a beautiful continuo solo accompanying the flutist. She had a radio program, her own radio station in Las Vegas for several years, and it was this symphony which was her theme music. And I'm sure that, well, certainly all her listeners are going to recognize it immediately, and I'm sure that your viewers and anyone who comes to the program tonight, if they heard just the opening two notes, they could continue the phrase. They'll know the theme instantly. It's very beautiful. And I'm going to pick up the violin, and I'm going to sit down and join the violin section and play this a la Mozart, the way it was intended to be performed, like a chamber orchestra.
So how many musicians will be there? Because a lot of times you do things, there's just like a trio there or a quartet. So this is more expanded. Is it a full orchestra?
It's a full orchestra for the time, and it's classical. It's very early classical. However, the larger orchestra wasn't really introduced until the middle of Beethoven's time. So that's when you bring in the low brass and the trombones and the tuba, and so we predate that just a little bit. Okay. So Lee, I know you've been on our program about a year ago. Yes. You're with the Village Symphony Orchestra. You've played with Valerie over the years many times. You play the cello. So what's your part in this? Are you're going to be there throughout? Are you going to accompany
I'll
Valerie?
Be there throughout in the cello section.
Yes.
And doing something that I love to do, playing cello. Because I, in my professional life, have been a professor of music at 3 different universities, most recently Cal State Fullerton.
Oh, very good.
And so I lived a life in academia, which I loved doing, but I retired about 15 years ago, and I thought I would love to do what I've always wanted to do, and that is play cello, and I have done that with a string quartet for the last 40 years.
Wow.
And I have played very happily with Valerie for about 10 years when she organized an orchestra in Newport Beach. So I've been with her for a long time, and I just love doing it.
And when you were teaching, what's nice about your particular profession back then is not only you could teach, but you could play at the same time. You could keep that up.
Well, I could, but I was not playing cello.
Oh, you weren't?
At that time.
What were you playing?
I was a pianist.
Okay.
But I taught music theory and analysis and conducting.
So what made you turn to cello?
Because I've always loved the sound of it from the time that I was in high school, and a friend of mine played cello solo, and I was just enthralled with it.
Now,
So I decided when I finally went into retirement that I would play as much as I possibly could, and I've loved it every moment.
when it comes to like cello, you play violin.
Yes.
Is there a similarity as far as could you, Valerie, pick up a cello and play it since you play violin? And play it to, you know, I'm sure you could. I mean, as talented as you are, but play it to a certain level that you could do it in a concert. I'm just curious about that.
It would take a little while, but I could. Actually, I played cello for a semester in college. I played clarinet, sorry all you woodwind players, for a semester in college also, because when you're in a music major and you're in school, you need familiarity with all the instruments. I wasn't very good, but it's quite different. I took to the cello much better, much more quickly, and I could actually play a little something, but it takes a lot of dedication, a lot of time. However, I would love to encourage everyone and anyone who has never played an instrument before to please don't worry about saying, oh, well, my time has passed, I'm too old, or I don't know anything about music, I don't understand the language. It's wonderful. So many times I hear, well, kids are so quick at picking these things up. But it's a very cerebral type of function. Once you understand the principles of how an instrument works, and adults have a certain maturity and discipline that kids don't have, I think it compensates, and you can participate and enjoy in the making of music just as easily as someone else. In fact, I've always wanted to play the flute. That was my first instrument. Maybe that's why I'm taking such joy in this program.
I just don't seem to have an ear for music. My dad did, or does still. But so Lee, you've been doing this for about 15 years, playing the cello. What is it that you like so much about it? Is it just the bass notes, the big sound of it?
Oh, it's the warm sound of a cello, and the wonderful music that exists for it in chamber music as well as in symphonic music.
Right.
And I must commend Valerie, and I hope she won't blush about this. But she chooses music for us that is playable and that we can do well, because of the maybe 50 people in the orchestra, most of us are picking up our instruments again in retirement for at least many of us.
Yeah. And
this is a fantastic outlet. And Valerie is a marvelous musician. And she teaches us very, very well. And she makes us better. And that is something that we all absolutely love about her.
And I would think that right there, it means more to you than actually playing.
It means the world to me, it really does.
Yeah.
And I don't mind telling you, the first time I saw Lee in the orchestra, I wasn't really expecting him. And I remember so clearly when I looked down in the cello section and I thought, oh my gosh, Lee Creeder is sitting here. And I got what in the profession we often refer to as the shanks, because I thought, wow, well, we all have such respect for Lee, and I've known Lee for such a long time, and I picked up the baton and I was like, there's a downbeat in there somewhere. Somewhere there is a 1. Somewhere there's a 2. And it took me a while to get out of the habit of saying, Lee, did I do that all right? Is this okay? Can you follow this all right, clearly?
So definite mutual respect.
Yes, and in fact, I've known Lee long before he joined the orchestra, and long before I began conducting the Laguna Woods Symphony, now the Global Harmony Symphony, and because he was also music director for the Fullerton Civic Light Opera. And my mother, who is an actress of stage, screen, and a wonderful musician and musical comedy actress, has performed on stage for Lee in years past, many shows, and so, I've known his name.
Yeah.
Very wonderful connection.
Now, the other day we had on one of your musicians who played the French horn that has a certain sound, and people hear it and they kind of think of, I said it's like you envision when you first hear it that they're out going on a fox hunt or something. You know, you have that do-do-do-do. With a cello, is a lot of times it's associated with more melancholy music.
Yes.
How about, you know, what you do? Is there part of the cello that you think is just opposite of that, that is uplifting? That's what I think when you hear cello. You think of, you know, kind of somber type music. Yeah. But I'm sure that's not the only thing.
No, not at all. Cello is capable of being played very fast and with exciting music. And it really is a pleasure to be the bottom of the sound of a group of musicians. And we are very much leading them in terms of intonation and doing things correctly.
Yeah.
Especially in tonight's program. They're so important since we don't have a trombone section or some of the lower voices. So and many times I call it they're driving the train.
Right.
So they give us the impetus and keep the bum 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 bum
right.
going in so many of the movements where we're playing, and so we have to listen very, very carefully. We're giving each other not just audible cues, but visual cues as we go back and forth. And
yeah, well, you know, you kind of go back to the days of, although it's certainly a bit different, but if you go back to the early days of, let's say, country music and jazz and things like that didn't have drums, they didn't have percussion, they would be using a bass guitar or a cello or whatever it might be to bring those notes in there and act almost like percussion.
That's right.
Yeah. So tonight it's at 7:30 at the Laguna Hills Community Center.
Yes. Free admission.
Free. I mean, it's just incredible.
Parking. There's a lovely lot near the main entrance, and if for some reason that lot fills up, which it often does, if you just drive up the hill in the direction of the high school, Laguna Hills High School, behind the community center is another parking lot, and near the soccer fields there's another parking lot, and this is all free for the community, and we certainly hope to see everyone come out and join us, where we will also be announcing our Carnegie Hall debut.
Very good.
Next year, April 18th. 2 p.m. concert at Carnegie Hall.
Wow, that's going to be great.
So we'll hear a little bit more about that this evening.
All right, thank you both for coming on. Always good to see you, Valerie. And Lee, great to have you back.
Thank you.
And have a great show tonight. And folks, if you want to head on over there, even if you're watching us here in the evening, you still have plenty of time to get over there. It's just right down the road and enjoy some great music.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we'll be back.